I'm Lindsay Lovelady and one of the Arkansas Behavior Support Specialists. Welcome to our newest behavior break and the series from Behavior the Forgotten Curriculum. We will cover phrases to promote a nurturing learning environment. Some examples of things to say and not to say are taken from Chapter 2 of Behavior the Forgotten Curriculum, an RTI approach for nurturing skills. If you're curious about what the book looks like, here it is, Behavior the Forgotten Curriculum. One component of creating a nurturing learning environment is to promote strong teacher-to-student relationships that in turn lead to greater student outcomes. What we say to students can enhance or compromise relationships, and our words may unintentionally erode the student's self-image, sense of efficacy, and their mindset. Let's look at some things to say and not to say in order to promote positive relationships with your students. In the first scenario, the student correctly solves a complicated math problem. Think about what you would say to the student. You might say, "You're so smart," or "You're a great mathematician." While these are both positive statements, both label a static characteristic of the student rather than describing the positive behavior they engaged in. These types of statements can lead to the student expecting to be good at math or smart every single time. What you're really proud of and want the student to continue doing is to work hard and build new skills. One thing you might say is, "Great work. I notice how hard you have been working to improve your math skills." Let's look at another scenario. During your 6th grade social studies lesson, a student says, "What an idiot," and laughs after a peer gives an answer. How might you respond to the student who called out? Most of the time, we are tempted to respond in a way that lets the student know that we are unhappy with something that they did. You might say something like, "I'm disappointed in you," or "You know better than that." Statements like these can erode your relationship with the student. Instead, consider saying something like, "What can you do to make a more kind and supportive comment next time?" This lets the student know they engage in an inappropriate behavior, but also focuses on planning for a positive behavior the student can demonstrate in this situation. Let's look at another scenario. During a small group activity, one of the students is sitting at their desk with their arms crossed and a frown on their face. As their teacher, you know something just isn't quite right. What would you say to the student? You could say, "What's wrong with you?" or "What are you pouting about?" These comments are not supportive and put the student on the defensive. This implies there's something wrong with the student. Instead, consider saying, "I see we have a problem. Let's work together to find a solution." With this statement, you acknowledge that something just isn't quite right, but you also offer to be a part of the solution and solve the problem with the student. Moving on to our final scenario. Rather than a specific situation, this scenario focuses on any sarcastic comment that a teacher or other adult makes. Many people make sarcastic comments in an attempt to inject humor into a situation. I know I do. However, those sarcastic comments are oftentimes misunderstood by and embarrassing to those students. Let's look at some examples. A student shows you a coloring sheet that they scribbled on. You sarcastically say, "I can see you did your best work," when you were actually saying, "You didn't do your best work." The student heard what you said and walks away with a smile, thinking you're happy with their work. One of your students comes into your classroom angry about being shoved in the hallway. They tell you, "Next time, I'm going to kick them." You respond with, "Well, aren't you a tough guy?" when you really mean that their plan for kicking is inappropriate. However, your student may take you at your word and be surprised when they get in trouble for kicking a student in the hallway. Assume a student engages in disruptive behavior in your classroom, such as talking across the room to a peer while you teach a lesson. You say, "Do you want to teach the class?" The student responds with, "Sure," and heads to the front of the room. What you really meant was, "Stop what you're doing and let me teach." The bottom line when speaking to students, or anyone for that matter, is that clear is kind and unclear is unkind. Let's sum it up. When promoting a nurturing learning environment in your classroom, what you say and how you say it matters. This applies to responding to positive as well as inappropriate behaviors. We want to recognize effort and progress by labeling specific student behaviors or accomplishments. I know it might be hard, but try to avoid using sarcasm when speaking to your students. The main thing is to remember that you and your students are a team. Help them problem solve when situations arise during the school day. A nurturing learning environment is one where everyone knows that mistakes are part of the learning process and problems are solved as a team. The way you speak to your students should reflect this. Thanks for watching our Behavior Break. Make sure to follow us on social media as well as to sign up for our monthly newsletter.